I'm gonna spruce up. Oh, look at this guy.
Hi there.
Hey,
Let's go.
Coach.
I want the backdrop too.
Oh yeah. How we doing?
Doing good. How about you?
Good.
I'm all right. I'm recovering from a trip back from the Twin Cities. We got in between 2 and 2:30 this morning.
So
Anyway, good time.
So, Dad, I
Yeah.
want to ask you. Your wife, my mother, Melissa,
Yes.
received a jellyfish sting. Is it terminal? How many months does she have?
We're minute by minute. No, she did kind of right across here. You can see a line of raised dots, and she had some on like the back of her ear. But the ones on her arm were the worst. But I think she's fully recovered.
Well, if
Thank
you
the
want to
Lord.
promote the Caring Bridge page, we'll include it in the bio.
Will she ever enter the ocean or salt water again? I don't know. I know it won't. She won't at the Gulf Coast of Mississippi again. But oh well.
All right, let's get into it. Yeah.
All right.
We welcome you to Backyard Tennis. I'm your host, Ike, along with David Big D3 Youngs. We welcome special guest Vic Youngs. Vic, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, thanks. Good to be here with you, young men.
Yeah, I'm super pumped to have you. So we recently changed the name from Tennis with Ike. There's a little bit self-conceited to Backyard Tennis. So you recently went out of your backyard down to Mississippi. How was your trip down there?
We did. You know, it was a quick trip, but it was really good. I've got a sister that lives down there, and she has two daughters who have families of their own. And I hadn't been down there in probably 25 years. Mississippi in June is hot and humid, but not as hot and humid as Mississippi in August or September. But the heat index one day was 108. Oh, wow. But we had a great time.
Yeah. What were some of the highlights down there?
Oh, well, I kind of owned the waves on a jet ski out in the Gulf, bouncing around. It's kind of a big deal. That was fun. It was fun. I did early morning walks along the beach by myself. Is that weird? I don't know. But no, it was nice. And, the best part of the trip, of course, was seeing family down there. We see my sister about once a year, and I haven't seen her girls in at least 10 years. So it was great.
Yeah. So I want to ask you, you're in Mississippi. Mississippi is known for a lot of things, for the better, for the worse. But it is home of Mr. Margaritaville, Jimmy Buffett, Pascagoula, I believe it is pronounced, Mississippi. Did you pay homage to Mr. Buffett while you were there?
Indeed. We listened to Margaritaville Radio or Radio Margaritaville quite a bit. And I thought happy thoughts of Jimmy. I tried to get a margarita served to me by the pool one afternoon, but no one was tending bar. So, I tried.
Yeah, no, I mean, you were probably overserved. So I think it's okay to be honest here.
Yeah.
Vic, one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on, one, you are David's dad, so we got the connection there. But two, you're a legend in the North Dakota and just probably tennis overall, in the tennis world, whatnot. So had to have you on. So I really appreciate coming on, whatnot. But I would like to hear a little bit about like the backstory on Vic Youngs. How'd you initially get into the tennis world?
Well, first of all, thank you. It's very kind. I'm a legend in my own mind, possibly. But tennis, I grew up in Madison, Wisconsin, and there were some neighborhood courts probably 6 blocks down from our street. And some friends and I would go down there every once in a while and just hit around a little bit. We had no idea what we were doing. And then one day, one of my good friends named Greg said, "Hey, I want to take some tennis lessons at the University of Wisconsin." and you want to do them with me? And so, I talked to my parents, and they said, yep, and got into it pretty heavy. It was really fun. So thank you, Greg. I think he lives in Idaho now, but that's when things started, and played 2 years of high school tennis in Madison, Wisconsin before moving to Fargo. Finished my last 2 years here, and played at good old Concordia for 4 years, and it's just a blast. And it was during that time, my summer job was teaching Park District lessons for Fargo. And so I, kind of liked working with the youngsters. Still really, really liked playing. I played quite a few tournaments during those years. And the opportunity came up to start doing some coaching at first at Fargo North when I was going to college. I was an assistant there, and then when I got my teaching job in Fargo, I got hooked up with Fargo South. Go Bruins!
So, at what point, through your career with tennis and just journey with tennis, did you realize that, hey, this is something that I really enjoy? Not the coaching, but just the sport in general. Was it right away with those lessons at the UW? Was it a few years later? When did you realize that you wanted this to be a part of your life?
After I had played a couple of years, when I was must have been in junior high, I did something called Madison Team Tennis in Madison, and each park had their own team, and we would practice on Mondays and Wednesdays at 6:30 in the morning. By the way, during the summertime, holy cow, this was during the tennis boom, so people were willing to do that. And then we would compete on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and I just loved the team aspect. And it was co-ed. It was fairly low key, but it was really, really fun. And then high school tennis and later college tennis really, really hooked me in. I love the aspect of, you're playing an individual sport, but you're on a team. So you got people around you to pump you up, and you can pump up as well. The team thing was the thing that really, really hooked me. I liked playing tournaments. Had a reasonable amount of success at a mediocre level, but the team thing was always the most fun for me.
How was your transition? You said you were, had a few years of high school tennis in Madison. You said, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you went to Fargo. How was your transition with like tennis? Was it better in Madison, or was it like better in Fargo? Like, what were the differences?
I love North Dakota, but no, the quality of tennis in Wisconsin was much, much higher. I went from when I was a sophomore, I was number 2 on JV, and I was poised for that junior year to jump in and play varsity. Yeah, but we moved. So I went from being one of the top JV guys to being one of the better varsity guys, and I was our top player at Fargo North when I was a senior.
Okay.
But no, just the pool is much, much larger in states like Wisconsin and Minnesota. But it's still, it was a blast. It gave me something to connect to when we moved here in the middle of high school, which was not a thrilling thing to do for a kid. But it hooked me up with some really good friends.
Yeah. What made you decide to go to Concordia?
I knew that I wanted to go to a smaller school. I was that close to being a Hamlin Piper. Went for a visit. It was a great visit. I also looked at St. Thomas at that time too. Met with both the coaches, and then I did a visit at Concordia. And well, you guys know, you're walking down the campus at Concordia. It is like one of the most friendly places on earth. It really felt like home for me. So, and I had a job working at the tennis club in Fargo. The guy that I worked with for lessons was still in Fargo. I thought, well, I can keep doing this, and I'm across the river, so I'm far enough away. But if I want to run home and do a load of laundry or get a good meal, it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, and let's talk a little bit, Dad, about those years at Concordia. You guys had some solid teams. I believe one of the last, if not the last, Concordia Cobber men's tennis team to beat conference powerhouse Gustavus. But what I'm intrigued by is, in today's world, in the year 2023, most collegiate tennis coaches have played tennis at some point in their life. They've coached for a few years. They probably played in college. That was not the case in the late 80s. Talk about, you had, I believe it was the offensive line coach for the Cobber football team as your head coach.
He was a quarterback's coach and
Excuse
sometime
me.
offensive coordinator. Bob Nick, who I have got an unbelievable amount of respect for. Really, really like him. But was he a tennis guy? Not so much. No. But he was a coach. He knew how to work with people from a football perspective. But it was different. It was a lot more self-directed. A guy in my class who still remains a very good friend of mine, Scott Ingham. Scott and I kind of were given a lot of responsibilities in practice, ranging from getting the vans to get people over to the racket club, it was called at that time, or organizing, getting the balls for practice inside Memorial Auditorium on the tartan, and sometimes, often, kind of running things. And but it was very, very different. The coaching, my most vivid memory of tough coaching moment was, I was a freshman. We were playing NDSU, who had a team at that time. I was playing a nice player named Todd Foster. He was a very fine player. He won the first set. I won the second. Coach Nick calls me over before we start the third set. I'm about to serve, to open the third set. He says, "Now don't get broke." Well, got broke. Lost the third set, one break, but oh well.
The classic getting in your head.
Yeah,
this is one of those sports where that small little lapse of focus sometimes we'll lose it for you. So were you studying? Because I know you became a teacher. Were you studying education in college then?
I started out as a psychology major for the first year. Then I switched to social studies education and Spanish minor. And I got my, courses that I needed for a coaching certificate, whatever that is. I'm never quite sure if that was necessary for anything, but it was fun classes to take. But yeah, I was a social studies guy, lots of history classes.
There you go. And so then you started coaching at Fargo South pretty immediate after your college days?
Yeah, I graduated in December of 1985, and I worked as a substitute teacher and then as a para. And I started coaching that spring with the girls, and I picked up the boys' job in fall of 1988, and that was my I think it was my second or third year teaching. It all kind of blends together, but 1988 was my first year as head boys coach, and I had the head girls coach for 7 years, and until I decided to let somebody else have a chance.
And so let's go back to the beginning of your coaching career. The North Dakota tennis community, it's a tight-knit fraternity. And I would say just high school coaching in general, with the sport of tennis across the United States. Who are some of your big mentors or role models that kind of welcomed you into that club right away that you learned from?
You're right. It's a small circle. But guys like Kerry Jager, the coach of Red River at the time, knew me from he was coach when I played at Fargo North, so he knew me then, and he kind of took me under his wing to let me know what was going on and so on. The head coach that I worked with at Fargo North when I was assisting with Bob Trigloff. Wasn't a super tennis guy, but he was really a good manager and a good man, and he helped out. And then the legendary Jerry Lyon at Minot High was a guy who I visited with quite a bit. Yeah. So good people, lots of really good people.
Hey, fellas, real quick, I got to grab my charger. I was going to say, so following up, you mentioned Jerry Lyons. Mm-hmm. And when you look in the last 30, 40 years at North Dakota boys high school tennis, there's a small group of coaches who have been there a long time. Gradually, if you stay at a program for 20 plus years, you're probably going to find some success. Whether that's you, whether that's Greg Leducer at Red River, whether that's Jerry Lyons. But Lee Nagel is somebody that I want to bring up.
Oh, yeah.
Lee Nagel, I know, is a close mentor and friend of yours. Coached the Wapton Huskies for years upon years. How did he impact the way that you coach? Is he somebody that when did he come into your life?
You know what? He started coaching a few years after I started coaching, but he has a few years on me. He was a wrestling coach, a really successful wrestling coach for years. But Lee is just, man, totally dedicated to his players. There is no tennis in Wapton without Lee Nagel. He meant so much to that town. He was the Pied Piper for this great game, and he dragged all kinds of boys and girls into the program. And that was something that it was good to see. I didn't really have to worry about numbers, being at a pretty big school in North Dakota wise, at least. But it really impressed me. He got kids, and I mean, he taught them every aspect of the game because he had to. I was fortunate, most of my top guys had experience with tennis teachers, but he started from scratch, and he's just such a good, kind, decent individual.
Yeah,
good guy.
I'm sure. I mean, you said that some of your guys, might have had some tennis experience or maybe lessons, at Courts Plus, whatnot. But I mean, you were 318 and 132 with a 71% winning percentage. Like that doesn't happen overnight.
Right.
Did you always have that success, or was that kind of developed over time, or were you pretty much always good, with Fargo South?
I think that there were in North Dakota, the top 4 teams in the East and in the West qualified for the team tournament. And I think that there were only maybe 4 or 5 times in 34 years where we didn't make it to state. So we were pretty consistent with putting out a quality product and putting together a quality lineup. I like to think that I had a little bit to do with that. You got to put the players in the right spots, and you got to make sure they don't derail. Right. But yeah, so no, we were very fortunate at South to have consistent success.
Yeah, and one thing that I found odd when doing a little back research on the back end and whatnot was you were North Dakota Coach of the Year 6 times, but you were only the Eastern Dakota Conference, the EDC Coach of the Year 3 times. How does that work?
I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a nice honor. And I don't exactly if you win the region tournament, you're automatically nominated for the state honor.
Okay.
And then they take the person who had the next highest vote total, and they're also a nominee. But I don't know. I've had more than my share of accolades over the years. It's just nice, but yeah, I know it sounds a little goofy, but
to me it sounds like the people that you were coaching against didn't really like you.
Hated my guts. Hated me.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, biggest asshole in the state. But in all sincerity, on that, you've got a winning percentage over 700 over that many years. You won 5 state titles. a large number of individual singles champions, doubles champions, a number of Mr. Tennis recipients.
Yep. Looking at one right there.
Yeah, that was a pity vote. So we won't count that one. But, I want to dive into some of those in a little bit here. But out of all the stuff that you've earned, whether it's being inducted into the North Dakota Tennis Hall of Fame, whether it's your being a finalist for National Coach of the Year, what stands out the most? I need one.
Well, the team wins more than anything. And each one of them, 90, 95, 15, 17, and 19, each one of them has got some fantastic memories. That's the biggest high in terms of what do I look back at for something tangible, but really the biggest thing that I remember from 34 years in coaching is all of these awesome people. It's just so much fun to touch base with former players now and then, whether it's on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. There's some guys that I consistently text when something goofy happens. I got to bounce it off Elliot, but the relationships, by far, that's the most, the thing that I remember the most. A close second, when you get a group of guys working together and everybody plays their role to perfection and it works out, that's pretty cool.
Well, let's talk more about that.
Sure.
In your 5 state team titles, on each one of those teams, you had a guy who was an absolute, he was a ringer, whether it was Blake Hankey, Josh Stucca, Davis Lawley, and I suppose you throw Jeffrey Youngs in there for that last one.
Mm-hmm.
But which one of those teams was the most what you would call a total team effort?
Oh, honestly, 1990, we just rolled everybody. We were like 22-0, and it was not close. So, everybody who played in varsity was just terrific. But in 15, 17, and 19, everything just had to line up perfectly. We had a lot of wiggle room in 1990, little wiggle room in 1995. But 15, 17, and 19, yes, we had some very, very fine players at the top of the heap, but it was the guys, our 4, 5, 6 guys who really came up big and did a job. Yeah.
And in 2015, I believe it was,
Mm-hmm.
That was when you guys beat Red River, correct? For the first
Heck yeah.
time. So yeah, explain that feeling and how are you feeling then? I mean, you had David on the team. I don't know if Jeffrey was on the team quite yet, but both your kids, and you upset a team that had 19 or whatever it was state titles or some crazy amount.
Yeah, they hadn't lost, and I think they won 20 straight years. I always said we were the last team to beat Red River in like 1998, I think it was. And, then they had this just incredible run. But then when we, David's senior year, Red River came up here to play. And I wish that the coaches would learn this sometime, but if you have a match that's contested at all, playing tennis, starting at 4:00, playing it, 6 singles, 3 doubles, you run out of daylight. And we did. And so we had we had 2 matches still going. Is that right, David?
Yep. Yeah.
We had
Davis and Carter. Yeah,
Davis and Carter were still playing. We had to go over to Island Park, and I had to shoo some guys off the courts. The 2 lower courts have Island Park's one of the few places in Fargo that's got lighted courts. So we shooed them away and finished there. And Davis took care of his guy, and it was the score was 4-4. Team score was 4-4, and Carter was playing a guy who was a very fine golfer and a pretty decent tennis player, but Carter beats him in 3. And I was super proud of our guys. I mean, this team hadn't lost in forever. And Carter wins. You know, there's a subdued celebration. The Red River team gets on the bus. A couple of spectators kind of threw a couple choice comments towards me. And once the bus left, then the guys absolutely erupted. It was so much fun. It's dark. They went on a run around Island Park to celebrate. It was incredible. And then to meet them in the state finals again, and we had the lineup that beat them. They guessed wrong, and as soon as I saw the lineups, I thought, you know, this is probably going to happen. So it was awesome to beat him in the regular season. It was even awesome to kind of shut people up by beating him a second time in the state finals.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Well, and I want to probe on that a little bit.
Yeah.
You mentioned that the choice comments from parents. Tennis is a game that draws a lot of really high quality individuals.
Mm-hmm.
If we're being honest, it's also a sport that draws a lot of pricks. And with pricks come prick parents. One thing that, and obviously I'm biased because I'm your son, but that is a lot of people respected you for was that you coached the game right, you played the game the right way. Sportsmanship was always at the apex of the game of tennis. How did you instill that in your guys? How did you discipline them when that wasn't being shown? And what role do you think that plays in the sport?
You know what? Character matters. The way you behave on the court matters. The way you treat your opponent matters. And, you know, my guys and girls, when I coach the girls, heard that over and over and over again. And if somebody has some poor behavior in practice, I tried not to let it slide. I didn't catch everything. At one point, early in my career, if you swore, I made you drop and do 5 push-ups. Funniest thing, I just had a memory of a guy named Jason Federer, not Federer, but Jason Federer was a really fine player in the early 90s, and he kind of had a potty mouth. And we were playing against, I don't even know who, it might have been a Grand Forks team, but he's playing a singles match. And all of a sudden, I see him drop to the court and do 5 push-ups and says, "Sorry, coach." I didn't hear what he said, but anyway, so that I, you know, try not to let things slide. And, you know, and other times if a guy chucks a racket or, you know, one of my top guys, you know, hit a ball into the next county after he blew an easy shot, I made him go get the ball. And I think that the guys knew that I valued good behavior and treating people with respect, and they caught on.
Yeah. And going off of that, what do you think is the solution as this game evolves? If we're being honest with ourselves, you go to a USTA tournament, you see kids questioning line calls up the wazoo. You see parents getting more involved, and not in a good way. How do you course correct? It's tennis is a sport that unfortunately is surrounded with extreme arrogance, oftentimes.
Sometimes, yeah. I don't know. I just think that you know, I remember watching you play in a tournament, David. We went down to the cities to play, and there was a guy next to you. I'm not going to say his name. You'll remember who he was, but he's just a fantastic player. But the kid was just a little jerk on the court.
Call him out.
His last name is City.
I cannot confirm or deny, but I turned to a parent as this kid is just spazzing over and over and over again. I turned to a parent sitting next to me and I said, "What does a kid have to do to even get like a conduct warning, let alone a point penalty. And the parent looked at me like I was crazy, but I don't know. Don't be afraid to pull the trigger. And I think in the USTA, under USTA rules, you get a warning. I could be wrong. It used to be that way, but what's the harm in saying, okay, you know what, this is a conduct warning. You can't crank a ball against the fence or into the net, or you can't hit your racket, chuck your racket. What's it going to hurt? And if it is a point penalty, it's 1 point, and you learn. Ask Jeffrey about point penalties sometime.
Isaac, do you ever get any code conducts?
No. I was a class act on the court.
Yeah.
But I was. What?
You beat yourself up.
Yeah.
more than any. A stern talking to you gave yourself to a lot.
Yeah. But it did bring me back though. When I was playing Sebastian Weil back when I was a senior year, my senior year of high school, I actually won off of a technical default because it was his third penalty. He was an 8th grader at the time. Full circle, we have him on for an interview. He's been on our channel a couple different times. Mm-hmm. He participates at the trivia. So there is a hope that, those players will mature one day. So.
Well, absolutely. It's a teachable moment.
Mm-hmm. I have a game here. So I did this with my brother at one point. But I kind of want to hear, there's always that sibling rivalry, who's better, depending on sport, whatever it may be. So who's better here, David or Jeffrey? I'm going to give you some different topics, and then you gotta choose. So we'll start it off, in my opinion, kind of easy, but grilling.
At drilling?
Grilling.
Grilling? Oh, yeah. Jeff or David for sure.
All right.
I don't think Jeffrey has a grill game yet.
He sucks.
Driving, just like driving a car.
I tell you what, that's a toss-up. I'm going to say David, because he's got a couple more years on him. But I remember teaching David how to drive, and that was not real exciting.
Writing a cover letter.
Oh, David.
Yeah. Doing your taxes.
Jeffrey.
Cleaning your room.
I'm going to say Jeffrey, but honestly, when he comes home, you can't even walk in that room. There's stuff everywhere. But overall, I think he's a little bit tidier.
Yeah. What about mowing the lawn? Did any of them, did either David or Jeffrey ever, pick up the slack and mow the lawn without you asking?
Oh, that'd be Jeffrey. All day long. David did not love doing that sort of thing.
Luck with the ladies.
Oh. Well, neither of them has a significant other right now that I know of, but I think David's a little more outgoing. He's a little bit of a charmer. He's a talker.
Yeah.
Yes, I am.
I'll second that.
I'm single, to all of our millions of viewers, by the way, female.
But viewers. Tell you what, the ladies like the strong silent type too. So Jeffrey.
And then last one, we'll finish up with this, but playing tennis.
Oh, God.
Be honest.
I think that if you guys play, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but if you guys play 10 times, I think you're going to split just about down the middle. I used to say, when David was not around, I used to say, what, Jeffrey's going to, he's a lefty, he's going to overtake David. And I don't know. What do you think, David? You guys play 10 times? What happens?
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on point in life. Like, I think when you look at Jeffrey and our progressions, like, I got good a lot quicker than him, but then I plateaued. I mean, I didn't get a whole lot better in college.
Mm-hmm.
Jeffrey sucked until probably his junior year of high school, and then he got really good. I think that Jeffrey has become a better college player than I ever was. Like, let's say you take Jeffrey at his best in high school and me at my best in high school. I beat him 2-2.
Yeah.
You take him at his best in college and take me at my best in college. I think he beats me. So we'll go with that.
Yeah. You know,
so yeah, 50-50 we'll say.
There you go.
But I don't know. I'm a better doubles player than him.
Yeah. Yeah. He's getting there though.
Yeah.
That Gustavus system, he's getting into it. Oh my gosh. They're all over.
I don't know if Jeffrey would agree with you on the playing though. I feel like he might think he's top dog here.
I think he would. Well, you know what? I would want both of them to think that they're top dog.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll take a look at who Jeffrey was playing in high school. It was like the most watered down. Okay, you don't have to include this.
Yeah. The pool has been shrinking over the years.
No, Jeffrey has progression-wise. Jeffrey has progressed much more than I ever did or will.
Second game here. We'll go into the next one. So I'm gonna say a phrase or a word, and you gotta say one word that comes to your mind. You know when I say this. So, Good Stuff by Missy.
Weight gain on my part. Dang, it's good stuff. I'm sorry. You want? That's right. I have to answer with one word. Is that what you're saying?
We're combining them, yeah.
Okay.
Hyphenated.
Okay.
Jeffrey G Money Youngs.
He's a gamer.
Paul Thibodeau.
Oh my gosh. Hey coach. That's what he always says when he sees me. Love that guy.
Pickleball.
Skeptical.
Courts Plus.
Second home.
Serena Williams.
Greatest female.
Body Bag.
Body bag.
Behind the shack.
Behind the shack. I don't know what to say. Nasty, awful. Hopefully not filled with anyone I know.
Yeah. And then last but not least, actually we'll end on two more. Second to last, Jellyfish.
Oh, the humanity.
And then the last, Legend.
Legend. Isaac Toivonen.
I'm gonna reverse Uno that card and say Vic Youngs, Legend. Yeah. David, you got anything else, or you wanna?
Yeah, I would just love to ask you, Dad. You know, over your 34 years of coaching, what are you most proud of?
Yeah, that honestly, it's a pretty easy one. I am so proud of the quality of human beings that have gone through our program. The stuff that my guys and girls are doing, you know, they're doing really good things with their lives overall. Had a few hiccups, but honestly, fantastic people. To be honest, though, that's the answer that I really, having my family connected to the program. Selfishly speaking, that's meant the world to me. Having Missy along for most of the ride. Julia played. I got to cheer her on, and having my boys play, have some success, and David coaching along the way and having some more success. That is that's the biggest source of pride for me, having the whole Youngs family involved.
Well, that's very sweet and kind. we don't like to end on positive notes. You've been nominated for National Coach of the Year. I think was it 6 or 7 times, and you never.
Oh, that's 7 times. Yeah,
7 times. Yeah. Why'd you never win? I remember you telling me before the last one, like most of the time it's a longevity award. They give it to like the guy who's been up the longest, and you were the longest.
Yeah, that was me multiple times. Come on, people.
Yeah. Why the hell didn't you win?
Why didn't I win? It's a conspiracy against North Dakota. Well, that's not true either, because LaDucer at Red River and Jerry Lyon at Minot are both National Coaches of the Year. Yeah, you know what? Apparently I didn't. I don't want to go too negative, but I could have done much, much more to help the Coaches Association in my years. I was a Pied Piper for getting people to join and so on, but no, that's a big part of it. I didn't serve on any committees and so on. But yeah, 7 times, 7 times.
You're like the Chicago Cubs, except you didn't actually win.
Exactly.
All right, Vic, I really appreciate you coming on and chatting a little tennis and going through your story. Thank you.
Thank you. This has been fun.